What's up? What it do? Welcome back to the channel. Man, we at 21,000 subscribers. Appreciate the love. Today I was able to sit down with Harold Roberts. He also known as Big Reds. Spent 39 years in prison. Did time all over the federal system, but he's one of the DC guys that kind of has a, unfortunately, unique story when it comes to serving time. As a 19-year-old, we're going to say, a kid, he was sent to the Baltimore Penitentiary. Very few people have stories about the Baltimore Penitentiary, so he kind of went into some of that. But I want y'all to support his craft. He has a book out called Gangsters Cry 2. His name is Harold Roberts. Right now, go to Amazon.com and check out Gangsters Cry 2. Although it's written like a novel, it's based on true events from his life and from the Baltimore Penitentiary. Shout out to Big Reds. We're going to be highlighting some of the things that occurred in his past over his journey, man. He's one of the top names you hear during the 90s era of the conflict between the DC blacks and the ABs. In all actuality, I'm going to try to find the exact paperwork, but in the paperwork in the AB's trial, he was something like a number 1 or number 2 target. They meant to bring him a move. They took him that serious. But we just gonna get into a little bit of Harold Roberts' story. Big Reds. Go support his book, Gangsters Cry 2 by Harold Roberts on Amazon right now. Shout out to the men.
My name is Harold Roberts. I served 39 years and I was released close to 4 years ago. Right. Born and raised a native of Washington, D.C., Southeast, 57th Street.
So when I was growing up, 57th Street, that's like over there by East Capitol on Southern Avenue?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what was life like for, growing up back then? What time was this? And, what was the city like there for, a young guy growing up in D.C.?
Actually, because I'm cold-blooded, old school, right? So, poverty was at an all-time high, right? And actually, there was no streets that I lived on. It was red clay, dirt roads.
Somebody tried to tell me that they called that part of town the country. That was chickens and goats and shit. Is that true or is that's exaggeration?
Not so much on 57, but all that area back then was considered Marshall Heights, like Eastgate, all that, right? And Simple City, everything. That's where I came up from, right? Because of the chickens and roosters that you that you speak of, people from different areas of the town, they would say it was considered like country. You know what I mean? Horse and buggy, rag man, watermelon man would periodically come up the street, right? A lot of people didn't have refrigerators then. They had ice boxes, right, with the big square block of ice, And so when people ask me about that, and they oftentimes speak of morality, you know what I'm saying? Right and wrong. And so this was maybe like 1965. And so I would venture into like 52nd Street, 54th Street, right? As you move on, down Central Avenue. And they was well-to-do black folks, right? Who worked in the post office, had government jobs and things of that nature. But everybody, and what I would never understand was how grass could grow on one side of the street and not the other. Because they had little manicured lawns and so forth. So I used to get up in the morning and venture out and more or less like daydream, right? Man, one day I'm gonna have me a house and yada, yada, yada. So this particular morning I got up, man, stomach touching my back. You know what I mean? Unlike today, people say, man, as if they got a choice, man. What am I going to eat? And you open the refrigerator and you pick and choose. Back then, you could wave your hand inside and not knock over a thing, right? So this particular day, the smell of apple pie assailed my senses. You know, back in the days, you know, mothers would cook pies and sit them in the windowsill to cool off, right? Wrap them in a towel. So I looked around, wasn't nobody in sight. So I stacked the pies up and ran back to the hood, right? So I would say the act of stealing, I mean, I didn't have no time to think about morality, Jesus, Allah, Confucius, Moses, because I was hungry, right? So that was my introduction into criminal activity, I would say. Me and my little crew, we performed a burglary back then. And we would break in, you know, white folks' homes and, you know, well-to-do blacks and go up in there and cook breakfast and eggs and watch TV and listen to music, right? All the electronics and things that we didn't have, we did it in their homes. So it was one of those turntables where you take the speakers and turn them upside down and sand would drip through them or something, right? So I'm cutting up for about a week, right? Listening to sounds. And somebody must have told, you know, that I was involved in a burglary. So they came and locked my brother up, right? So I'm coming down the avenue and my house is surrounded by police. So I get there and my mother said, man, they locked your brother up for breaking in a house and they took the turntable. So I went and told my crew, I said, man, they locked my brother up, man. You know, he ain't had nothing to do with this junk. You know, we got to free him. They said, shit, that's your brother. so I went and told my mother, I said, man, bro didn't do it. You know, that's my beef. You know, that's some honorable shit you don't want, but, you know.
You don't hear stuff like that.
You know what I mean? So I went there at 14 Precinct and I told the whole story about the burglary, everything we took was missing, you know. So
basically what you had to do to take the beef.
I took the beef and they let my brother go and I went to receive him home. On Mount Olive Road. I went up in that joint and from there, Cedar Knoll. So
it was called Cedar Knoll back then?
Yeah, Cedar Knoll, Maple Glen. You know, that expression they say, you know, every tub must stand on its own bottom, right? So everybody was into fighting, you know, it was a fight thing, you know, boxing and so forth. So you're gonna be tried, you know, it could be about some French toast, pancake, you know what I mean? Like you just couldn't walk a certain kind of way and get by, you know. And like I say, a man knows not his strength without a foe. Oh man, right? So, especially when you're alone and you ain't got no team, right? You kind of like, you know, stand out. So you like easy prayer for whatever game is coming your way. And it's okay, you know. Now the question is how you handle it. You know what I mean? You're gonna show up. You're gonna fold up, right? And so, you know, it was a lot of sports, you know, and, you know, boxing and football and everything. And it was like cottages, right? And so they would compete, right? But the funny part was when we get up in the morning to go to breakfast, you'd be in a straight line like you was in the military, right? And you would be walking. And sometimes they would let all the cottages out at the same time.
So almost like how the feds it turned into, like before they controlled the movement.
But somebody would, you know, we be marching, can't stop, won't stop, right? So that means if somebody coming from east and you coming from west, y'all gonna bump heads. And if y'all turn to go south, you got two lines coming from two different colleges, and somebody gonna be in front of you. And that's where the rumbling would stop, right? So it was more or less like, well, college you was in, right, that you had to represent that college.
Okay.
Right, you know what I mean? So I think that also was when I was introduced to being more or less like a freedom fighter. You know, it was like a staircase, right? Juvenile, Youth Center, Big Lawton, right? So the same people you met coming up, you meet coming down. So the same dudes was in juvenile jumps, went on to Youth Center and to Big Lawton. Being a juvenile or adolescent, whatever, by definition, you know, my struggle or the beat of my heart wasn't associated with the term freedom fighter, right? I just knew that I was someplace that I didn't want to be, right? And so, like anything else, you go over your aunt's house, they mistreat you or whatever, and you leave. And so, I started escaping from the juvenile facilities, and it perpetuated to, as I grew up, you know, I became more sophisticated, right?
So you escaped from Juvenile?
Yeah.
What was that like? Statute of limitation over on that? They ain't gonna take you back to juvie.
Yeah, you going back. You know, I'm a juvenile.
No, I'm talking about now.
Oh, no. Yeah, I can kick
How
it
you
now.
got out?
You know.
How did you get out of Juvenile?
You know, this is crazy.
Whatever you remember.
The homie, Per Early, right?
Shout out to Per Early. I met Per Early during my time. Boxing on.
Yeah, he rumbling nigga, right? So Per Early, we in the day room, and a dude could jimmy the lock and open the door.
To let you out of the cottage.
To let you out of the cottage. And it's just woods, right?
Oh, it wasn't no fence in y'all time. Right?
No, it wasn't no fence. It was, you know, of ash. Ash was like the hole, so to speak, for lack of a better word. And anyway, I saw the dude could open the door with a spoon. So I encouraged him, you know, to bust the door, right? And I hit the woods. And the woods was deep back then, you know what I mean? Almost like a forest. So the administration would cut down trees so they could drive the Jeeps through the woods to run us down, right? And once they caught you, they would beat the hell out you, right? That's like in my era, a truant officer, right? They were so crazy. I mean, they would climb up a ladder and look in your bedroom window, you know, if you had missed X amount of days out of school.
Never heard that.
Right. And so that's what they were assigned to, you know, to bring you in for not attending school, right? From there, I went to Youth Center. But I had an observation.
What years did you got to Youth Center?
1973.
Oh, I bet.
You understand? So everybody was in Youth Center that was in Cedar Law, right? And the list goes on, right? And everybody that you probably have interviewed was in Cedar Law and Lawton Youth Center. Everybody that was somebody in the streets, at some point he touched a juvenile joint and Youth Center. You know what I mean? So if I don't know you, I know of you. You know what I mean? And this, I would think, build your reputation, right? And so, I mean, some people take it to the extreme, right? Like, you think I'm gonna be the same dude that I was 11 years old in a juvenile facility, and I hit the big house and I'm 40 and 50, you know what I mean? And so people grow up, you know what I mean? Dudes learn how to fight, they become killers and know karate and whatever the deal is, you feel me? And so with that being said, everything has its place, you know, and don't nothing happen before it's time, right? Gotcha. But so I'm in Youth Center on observation. And
Youth Center still had that same rep then that it had as the years to come?
Yeah, Youth Center was Youth Center.
Youth Center was that, okay.
See, this is what I have, I don't understand. everybody went through these different phrases in different places, right? And so everybody get a first chance or a first time for being here, there, whatever, right? You know what I mean? So based upon how you deal with whatever, confront you, right? Then that began to shape your reputation, so to speak, because just like the street don't love nobody, the street got some stories to tell, right? So you can't hold a dude accountable. I remember so-and-so knocked him out down Cedar Knoll. Okay, he was 12. So now you're in Lawton and you're 18, you're 19. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You're holding them accountable for the 11, you know what I mean? You think that's the same dude that you're gonna see today, right? And so they step the game up. People grow up, So I'm in there and I got a UFAC. So around that time, if you had a federal UFAC, they would send you like to Tallahassee, Florida, different spots, right? So I had 105 years in Maryland. Because you have so much time.
105 years, that was a normal sentence then?
No. That was real thick, right? And
what you gotta do to get 105 years that people wouldn't understand now? You don't even hear them sentences no more. And you got that sentence at what, 19 years old?
Yeah, right. And,
Well, how does a 19-year-old accept 105 years?
Like the judge used to say, people would ask the judge, man, how am I gonna do it? Either you gonna pull it or you gonna push it. How you gonna do it? How you gonna do 50 years, 40 years, right? One day at a time. It's no remedy, ain't no set way of doing forever, right? So either you got to be mentally strong, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna let this thing beat me up, tear me down, you know what I mean? And sometimes people speak about when you come to prison, your growth is stagnated, right? Not the academic thing or the mental or the spiritual growth, but emotional, right? All that shit stay at the door, you know what I mean? Because you ain't gonna be with your baby mama no more for 20, 30 years, right? So you can't trip on that.
You speaking from wisdom and experience now.
True that.
But at 19,
I didn't know.
And you learned or acquired this through trial and error.
Trial and tribulation, right? True that, right?
Yeah. But at 105 years, you were going where again? Because I kind of took you off track, my bad. With 105 year sentence, you were on your way where?
To the Baltimore Penitentiary.
And where did you learn about the Baltimore Penitentiary? And how did you learn about the Baltimore Penitentiary?
They got an old saying, like, in your generation, y'all speak of beepers and cell phones and tablets and so forth. The means of communication back then was telephone, telegram, or tell a nigga. If a nigga said this is what's happening, then it was carved in stone. You didn't question that, right? Because everybody knew that was a violation to put a bone on a dude or put a coat on him that don't fit, right? So I heard some stories, because I've been in Maryland juvenile facilities too, Waxter, training school, right? So that gave me an edge on guys from Baltimore by the time I got to the big house.
What was their reputation in juvenile in your era?
Okay, DC was known for using their hands. Everybody, some outbox others, but everybody could bang. And that's what we did in the street. Baltimore guys, they had, when you run with them, they had a thing called the Cheltenham bus, right? Like, they'll fake you up top and grab your cuffs or your pants or your ankles and dump you. They was more into wrestling. No, that's true story, right?
No, but what you saying is so interesting, because you telling me this shit 20 years before my time. But go ahead. So, yeah. No diss to Baltimore. Shout out to my Baltimore soldiers.
Ain't no question.
I done heard this for 40 years.
Good. I never heard weapons like a lock in a sock, right? Putting batteries in a sock and bust your head open. A lot of people, man, that'll kill you in real life, right? So
Yeah, that pool ball in the sock, that lock in the sock, it's like a gunshot.
yeah, right. And so you come to the realization that all kinds of weapons can take a life. It don't have to be no bone, no hammer, or any of that, right? But
you heard all these things about Baltimore Penitentiary on your way there.
yeah, I heard all.
Now, you told me some stories about your past that we done talked about in private. So just to dance around what we talked about in private, can you go into and talk and educate the people that don't know that for you to even go to Baltimore Penitentiary, it was an anomaly and that you were too young to actually be there, and what ended up getting you out of there and getting you back? How was that experience for you?
You had to be like 24, 27 to go on the maximum security yard. When I pull up in there, diagnostics, not the diagnostic center today, the diagnostics was actually inside the Baltimore Penitentiary.
So that means everybody had to go, right?
Everybody go on there and they'll classify you to either go to Jessup, Hagerstown, or whatever, right? When I was riding on that bus to get to the penitentiary, people often ask me the question that you asked. It was like a chariot ride to hell, right? Just based on the stories you heard about it. Upper Marlboro will take you to Baltimore Penitentiary.
So how was that ride when you say bus ride from here? How long that took you? About 40 minutes?
Yeah, something like that, right?
Okay.
And so people on the bus, some first timers, some going back for the second time, and all these stories are being told, right? And my thing was, I'm going. So it don't make no difference whether you beat your chest or you be scared, bite your fingernails, however it's going, you going in there, right? When I pull up in front of that joint, I've never seen a penitentiary from the outside that was more terrifying than that joint. You seen them Count Dracula movies, big gray stone joint. It looked like a castle, for real, right? So I go inside. I go through R&D, the shower, you get your bathrobe, and they would tell you, they said, man, once we open this door, don't stop. Go straight until you run across an 18-foot grill. So now you're walking, and they got homosexuals, right, lined up on the flats. Everything, it's old, it was 100-some years old, antiquated. They got screw-in light bulbs, different flavors, red, blue, green, and looked like Las Vegas at night, right? And they got rouge on, nightgowns, and they whistling at young dudes, right? On the second floor was death row, where the inmates was pacing their cells like animals in a cage, I would say, right? So it just gave you an eerie feeling, right? But you got to plant your feet because you won't be there.
You're 19, right?
Yeah, I'm 19. So they sent me on diagnosis. The next morning I got up and me and my partner had hooked it up. Little gal's gonna bring that situation to us the next day. So I'm ready to go get that pack, right? And I go through the dining hall and they had roast beef for lunch, gravy, potatoes, greens. And so as I went through there, everything is a steel tray. I extended my tray, slammed the roast beef down. I thought that was disrespectful. Well, you slam my food down. So my man, come on, Rez. So we kept it moving. I got to the potatoes. He threw the potatoes on, slung gravy, got all on the front of my joint. Young nigga moved down the line, So I'm thinking about that pack now, right? But when I got to the bread, I looked back down the line, and the nigga had the audacity to blow me a kiss.
What does that mean? Not me. You looked at me like, what the fuck you mean, what do that mean? But what do that mean?
I mean, that's one of the highest forms of disrespect. You know what I'm saying, Slim? You know, what the hell? You blow me a kiss? What, you gonna pat me on my ass, right? So I've already got my knife on me, right? So I told my man, I said, man, fuck them drugs. So I circled back, jumped the counter, and I crushed him.